My name is Jack Powers. I'm going to tell you a little story. It's a great story, actually. May 11th of this year, I was going to work at 1:30 in the morning. And Dan Ryan was in construction. But there was no one out. I didn't see anybody, and I was just going with the traffic. Suddenly, it was like I was caught like a deer in headlights. Boom, big flash. Well, I said, well, I just got a ticket. That's what I said to myself. About a month later, sure enough, in the mail, I got a ticket saying that I was speeding in a construction zone. I said, oh my goodness. But I looked at it, and the ticket said I had to receive the notice within 2 weeks of the incident or an infraction. But it was like more like closer to 30 days. It was actually the postmark on the ticket was like 7, 8 days after 2 weeks. So I thought I had a technicality there. But I called them up and told them that, and they said, well, no, you got to come in. Well, then they changed it on me. The trooper couldn't be there the one day, and I had to show up. And I called them. I said I couldn't show up because I had to do something at work. That was the day I had to be there. They wanted me in Bridgeview at 9 o'clock, and I had to be doing some work at 9 o'clock. So I couldn't be in two places. And I told them that, and they said, it's too bad you had to be there. I told them I'd be there the next day, and they said, well, that don't count. Well, I went there the next day anyway and tried to talk to the judge and to know about it. So you just got to wait for the other notice. Well, I got another notice. And then I says, well, my mind starts moving, and I says, ooh, I'd better have a lawyer. And I start thinking, gee, I got PrePaid Legal. I call PrePaid Legal, and they say, hey, we'll get you a lawyer out there. Send us a copy of your ticket, and we'll fax it to you. No, we couldn't see the fax. The person they gave me was a Kenneth A. Credence out of Payless Heights. But I went there on the day, and Kenneth found me and talked about it, and then he pointed out again that this is supposed to receive this within 2 weeks, and you didn't receive it, and his postmark was like 8 days after, or 7 days after. He says, and then he jumped up, and in the time when we were supposed to go, and said, hey, Your Honor, this should be dismissed because he had received the ticket after the date it was supposed to be. Well, then she called some prosecutors, then we had an assistant prosecutor, and then they called some clerk and some judge who sent down a clerk, and then a number of other lawyers say, hey, we have the same problem here. We didn't receive this in timely notice, and dot, dot, dot. Well, they all got together, and they all left the courtroom to go and have a summit or whatever. But I sat there, and there was 102 people in our call. That means in a time frame of an hour. And it was brutal. People come up and says, well, here's your picture. This is you doing this. You're in a construction zone, and there's workers present. The fine is $375. The county adds some money, and the state adds some money, so it's $430. Go through their room and pay it. One after another. Oh, you can't pay it? You can't pay it right now? Well, gee whiz. You have 30 days to pay it, or else your license is going to be suspended. Boom. It was brutal. It was brutal. I said, oh my God. I started cringing. I said, there's no way in heck am I going to, this judge is going to let me, get out or do anything. So after a while, and I saw about 20 people have that happen to them. And some people were dazed. Well, one woman got, I don't have that money. I don't know. $430, boom. You got 30 days to get it, and that's it. Brutal. Well, guess what? My lawyer comes walking in with everybody else, and he didn't have a smile on his face. So I knew right then that I'm going to pay a fine. And he says, well, the judge won't allow it. I says, why won't she allow it? And he says, well, she just won't allow it, this and that, but she just won't allow it. I tried, and he says, well, what can you do? Then he looked over at me and says, were there any workers present? I said, there's no one. There's no one out there. No, it was no one. It's 1:30 in the morning. They were just starting the construction. He says, hold on. Now, we can go with a freedom of information technique. He says, go for it. He says, I'd rather pay you than pay them. Because I have a CDL. On a CDL, you get 2 major infractions, you lose your license for 6 months. I would have been out of work and out of a job. Well, he went before the judge again and said, hey, my client says there was no workers present. And of course, the trooper jumped up and said, oh, there's always workers present on the Dan Ryan working. And my lawyer said, I forget his name, the officer, where were you when this was going? Well, I was in a construction trailer. So you were taking pictures of people in a construction trailer. You weren't outside, so you wouldn't know if there was workers present or not. And that kind of showed, that kind of slowed him down there. And, well, the judge says, well, there's some discrepancy here. Let's, get some information. State trooper, you get your information, and we'll come back November 6th. Well, and that's what we did. We postponed it to November 6th. Well, November 6th comes along. I'm there. And this time, the lawyer comes up. He's smiling. And he brought a little sheet of paper, 2 sheets of paper. One of them says a fax transmission to Walsh Construction, which is the primary contractor for the Dan Ryan, which also is in charge of keeping logbooks of when people are working on it. And this is a response signed by Brian A. Gurin, a corporate counsel. And here's what it says. We have investigated your inquiry regarding whether Walsh Construction Company was conducting construction operations on May 11, 2007 at 1:38 a.m. on the Dan Ryan at 79th Street, Chicago, Illinois. As a result of this inquiry, we have determined that the Walsh Construction Company was in fact not conducting construction activities at that time and place. I trust this satisfies the request and that I have no additional service. What a beautiful thing. And it has here the fax number, and it's on the logo, and this is the corporate counsel for Walsh Construction. He's smiling. Suddenly I'm smiling. He says, do you think they'll do it? He says, I don't know until before we go in front of the judge. Well, we went before the judge. And she said, refresh my memory of what the case is about. And he went in about the 2 weeks and so forth. And she says, I didn't allow that. He has to be there. Even though his ticket says you have to have it in 2 weeks, he still has to be here. She was adamant about that. And he said, well, we also talked about having workers present. Yes. Yes. And then he showed her this information. And she says, well, it looks like there's no workers present. So then, I guess I have to dismiss the case against you, Mr. Powers. Of course, I sat there very quietly and says, thank you, Your Honor. But inside I was jumping up and down. Yes, justice has been done. If I didn't have PrePaid Legal, which paid for the lawyer to be there, and having a good attorney by Kenneth Credence from Palos Heights as my lawyer from PrePaid Legal, I would have paid a $430 fine, and I would have had a possibility of losing my license if I got another major ticket. So I thank PrePaid Legal, and I recommend everybody, because there's a lot more features to that little item than you can imagine. How many people have a will? 80% of the United States have none. This will get your will set up. It'll help you when there are times like this when you have to go in front of a judge and you have a traffic violation. It'll help you on other times when you get a discount. 25% off of regular fees on other items. There's a lot of good things with PrePaid Legal, and I suggest you investigate it and then sign up. And if you would, to help defray the cost of this website, sign up on the website for me. I guess that's the end of my story. It's a great story. And I am Jack Powers.